And okay, well, what about sharing some case studies with our attendees of how US organizations used, early GRC technology to comply with US SOX in the early days? Adil, Nigel, would you like to share some case studies with us?
Yeah, I can think of a couple that Nigel and I worked on. I'm based in Dallas, though you didn't know me. I worked with, obviously, when it started, I started working with some local accounts, and Nigel and I worked together, him from the product strategy, product perspective, and us from services perspective. So I think Nigel, account in Fort Worth comes to mind where, at the time we were in the documentation phases of getting all the controls documented, and then we use some of the workflow capabilities in Oracle to help them implement those controls. We talked about that at the beginning of the session, about that migration from documentation to testing the operating effectiveness of those controls. So that's going back way back in history, back to 2004 and 5 timeframe. But Nigel, one of the things that I'd love to kind of hear from your perspective as a technologist is, what are some of the things from your perspective that customers in UK can do to really streamline that, controls monitoring piece? I know you and I have spent a lot of time talking about financial close process, and that's probably the heart of this whole exercise. And so maybe if you can draw on some of those examples and share that with our folks here.
I think that the account you're alluding to there, that sort of is actually Texas Industries, I think was the account we were working with at that point in time, and certainly what in our read of what the legislation was requiring, it was to require that controls had been signed off, like a very much an auditing view of taking responsibility for those controls and to confirm that they're designed well and working effectively. And it was very interesting to have clients turn around to us and say, well, we're kind of interested if they're like signed off, but like mostly I want to know that they're done, which was the, where those controls were actually human activities. But yeah, there's like some element that you've got to say that they're effective, but more centrally, you needed to say that the activity had been completed. And I think with workflow tools that allowed us to at least confirm that someone had actually said that something had been completed, such that subsequent activities would then become eligible. Certainly in the close process, you have to be careful about timing to make sure that things are actually happening in the correct sequence, and that was one of the important controls that we had. Even though the activity was a manual activity, that the eligibility for it was actually something that you needed some manual input for. But at the end of the day, I think that was a 2005 view, and I think moving more of the activities into automated activities just allows the controls to work more effectively. They're more reliable. They're harder to circumvent. They're actually easier to certify. The more of them are actually automated controls. So I think that's where I would push people these days, to really look at the inventory of configuration capabilities that you have within the systems that you're using, and just make sure that where you could automate and take human decision out, but implement a policy, that actual behavior within the system is just a much more reliable way to enforce that control.
Yeah, just to kind of fast forward from there to now, just to give you an idea where we are today. So that was sort of where we started of this workflow capabilities, and our more recent customers are doing, Nigel, as you stated, automating that. So for example, in the recent months and years, we're seeing customers adopt a financial close process where it's integrated into their ERP system. So as you are closing subledgers as part of your checklist, so typically a customer comes to us, they have some sort of what we call here a 3-ring binder. They have a checklist. I'm going to close my AP, I'll close my AR, and so on and so forth, and I will run this interface, and I will, if I'm dealing with a global company, most of us are, And so let's say your Singapore is where your close process starts, it moves to London and then to New York with the time zone differences. And you have some special entries to make. Let's say you're a bank, investment bank, and you have year-end bonuses to release. And those are topside entries before it goes for finals review. So the monitoring of this process, the close process, becomes really important for the executives to ensure that as we have more aggressive timelines to disclose results faster and close books accurately and timely, we have this added pressure of monitoring that checklist. And so having that spreadsheet floated around multiple regions and business units, errors happen in spreadsheets, and that's where customers get in trouble. So what we're seeing from our customers today is that work for the close workflow itself has to be automated. Some of those pieces are happening in your ERP systems, but a big chunk of that is still manual, your work papers, your reconciliation. So customers that feel that pressure of accurately, timely, reporting accurate results to the market can leverage some of the technologies available in the market today, like we have, where they can dip into we call it deep integration, dip into your ERP system, sense out, what tasks are completed in ERP, blend them with the manual tasks that are happening, or automate those in tools like SafePaaS, and then speed up that close process to make sure the executives have enough time to review the accuracy and sanity check the numbers on the variance on balance sheet, income statement, etc., and provide the necessary guidance with the financial report filing requirements that are here in the US. So I think it's just come a long way since 2005 to 21, and the advantage UK customers have today is they can leverage these best practices that are built into the technology available today to reap the benefits from the lessons learned here.